Welcome everyone to AARP Wyoming's Video Voter Guide Series for 2024. I'm Tom Laycock with AARP Wyoming, and today we're joined by Tamara Trujillo, who's running for the Wyoming Legislature in House District 44, located in Laramie County. AARP has a proud 40-year history of nonpartisan voter engagement and does not endorse or oppose candidates. Nor does AARP make contributions to political campaigns or candidates at any level. Instead, we ask questions so our members understand where the candidates stand on important issues and can make their own decisions on Election Day. Today, we'll give Ms. Trujillo 3 questions, allowing for a 1-minute and 30-second response to each. Then we'll give Ms. Trujillo 2 minutes to make her pitch to the voters of House District 44. So, Ms. Trujillo, our first question is this. Over the last 2 years, the Wyoming Legislature has made providing property tax relief for its citizens a priority. In your view, what's the most efficient way to provide relief while balancing needs for revenue for schools, counties, and other entities that rely on property tax to maintain sustainable funding?
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for having me today. Property tax, right? It's one of the major burdens on taxpayers. And Wyoming doesn't. So here's the thing. Wyoming doesn't have a state property tax, but the local governments can levy property taxes based on a mill of $1 worth of taxes for every $1,000 of property valuation. So I've been working with a group of legislators in order to do property tax reform, you need to do a budget reform. And that's where I'm focusing on is the budget and how we spend money. So if we have a state that spends money on multiple things without focusing on the people, that's where we come into the issues. And then state Wyoming being very dependent on mineral rights, we need to focus on that and where the federal government is taking us. So working with some fellow legislators, we're coming up with a tax spend, which would then in turn around, or a budget spend, which would then in turn around bring property tax relief for everybody. And it's a 3-step solution with like step number 1 to spend less, the new state spending law, followed by an immediate constitutional amendment referral. And then on step 2, we're looking at, if we do step 2, tax less, 90% of the state surplus results from the spending growth limit to go directly to taxpayers by reducing school property tax to offset the funding for schools. And on step 3 with that, it's limiting our government and state and local funds available if more taxes are needed. So it's really reining in the budget in order to bring property tax relief to everybody.
Okay. Our second question for today. Wyoming's population of those aged 60 and over grew by 47% 2010 to 2020, while the state's entire population grew just 2%. We know 64% of all nursing home beds in Wyoming are paid for right now by Wyoming Medicaid. What do you see as the greatest barrier to helping our older adults age in their homes and communities, and what solutions would you provide?
In talking to my constituents and actually a younger workforce too, as to how we can solve this, is really what we started in this past session, is promoting and funding trade, right? For CNAs, going into programs and giving grants for people to learn to help our elderly stay in their homes, because we realize that that's a more cost effective, not only on the person's budget, but also the state's budget. So I would say promoting more education for those coming into the workforce to work with our elderly and help in that field. As far as helping the elderly that are already in the situation, it is still promoting more relief through grants and how we did this past session in giving tax breaks.
Okay. Our third and final question for today. Emergency medical services are not considered an essential service in Wyoming, and in some areas, ambulance services do not have sustainable funding source. Over the last 10 years, Wyoming has seen 16 EMS service providers in the state fold or consolidate with another service. What solutions would you offer for ensuring access to ambulance services?
I think still promoting this past session, how we did have the EMS services combining with other services. We need probably more of those. And I find it really hard to believe why EMS isn't a funded purpose, right? We call 911 and send somebody to their house, which in turn, I'm not that idea always just confuses me. I would really like to see more funding for emergency services, especially out in the rural areas.
Well, thank you for taking the time today to answer our questions. We want to make sure now we give you 2 minutes to make your pitch to the voters of House District 44. So go ahead.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everybody for allowing me to serve for the past 2 years. It's been a very learning experience, and I want to continue to do good for my community. It's not always easy getting the government to compromise, and so many of us trying to work together. But what I have learned in these past 2 years is not only having to learn the budget so we can vote for our people, but there are also other programs that I'm looking into, especially for my district, because we are a minority district and we are a low income district. So there are many other ways that I have found to help my community. So, if it's not the government's responsibility to cure a lot of these social issues, it's up to us as individuals to find that. And I feel that I'm one lucky person to have met those connections in these past 2 years to bring some help and relief to my district. I'm always open for conversation, and my phone number is always accessible online. And I'm willing to listen to what everybody's problems are. So when I go on into session, I can vote for you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Trujillo, for your time, and thank you to our viewers for joining us for this video voter's guide. We encourage you to keep checking Cowboy State Daily and AARP Wyoming's Facebook page for more voter guides in the days to come.